Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to wait as everyone joins. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Sonia. Yeah.
Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Back. Good. Okay, we'll just let people join. Then I'm going to share my screen. Second. Get us kicked off. A few little announcements first, and then we're gonna get into the heart of this.
Ryan, could you please make us all co-hosts so that we're able to put people in breakout rooms and record portions?
Sure.
So
yeah.
That would be me, Sam, Cassie. Who else from our team? Everyone?
Me, Rachel.
Rachel and Heather and Katie.
And me, yes. Brought a lot of people just in case we could break out into more breakout rooms to have smaller, more intimate discussions.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. So I've got listed as co-hosts Sam, Katie, Rachel, Sonia, and is there anyone else I'm missing?
Myself,
okay.
Cassie.
So Cassie, yep, Cassie Bragdon and Heather Moy.
Cassie.
Thanks, Cassie.
Oh, and Heather.
Put it in the chat.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
And then I don't know if it's
the group today.
So far, yeah. And I don't know if it's still possible, but for the agenda, it's really more Sam and team presenting than me. But it doesn't matter.
Okay. This is, here we go. Okay, well, this is being recorded, so we can go ahead and jump in. People do join, and I share this recording with the group. So actually, probably more people listen to the recording than are able to sometimes make the meeting. So I don't want to cut in too much to your time. So I would like to get us started, if that's okay with all of you. So let's start out. I wanted to share our agenda. So I've got a few announcements that I'm going to be covering, and then we're going to jump right into, we've got the Implementation Science Team here to talk about the PCORI Grant and specific to the, what do we call it, capability building portion, right? And so we get to learn as well as participate in this now, and then also if you're listening to the recording, I'm sure the team is available to meet with you individually or just even connect via email to hear your thoughts and responses of that. But they can share that. At the end, as we always do, we're going to have the I like, I wish, I wonder, where we're providing or getting feedback from all of you to hear how things go. And you can always also email us too with information. As always, though, when we first break out into our groups, we will, I made them promise that we would also have the icebreaker, get to know you connection portion of this. So hold us all to that when we go into the breakouts, that's the first thing we do is connect with one another first, because that's a critical part of why we get together each month. Okay, so with that said, what I would like to do is quickly put another plug in for our Lean Healthcare Academic Conference, which begins next Tuesday. So in just a few short days, we're going to be doing that. We're going to be all together in person for that. I want to also highlight, my daughter had fun with the hats. We have some hats for everyone who's part of this group who comes to the conference. We've got a bunch of them. So if you come and you're part of this group, let me know, you'll get a hat. So she wanted to, you know, as I think her generation does, you gotta, of course, model the hats. So she took it upon herself and took a bunch of pictures of the hat while she was wearing them. So that's the hat, and you get to see my daughter in the thing too, so that's kind of fun. And then there's also the website. All the information you could ever imagine, hopefully, is on the website. The agenda, the pre-conference training, the post-conference training, all very good. Information about those, what the speakers are, the content of it. You can also register there. You can access the Whova site, which is the site that we use for the conference. Everything you could imagine would be there. And if it's not, reach out to myself or Jakaria. We'd be happy to connect you, as well as Lisa Freeman. I know that we're all very involved in it. So hopefully we'll get to see you there. We also have, let's see, is Morgan? I don't think Morgan got pulled into a last minute meeting, I believe. Morgan is helping us to coordinate a little get together for this group at the lunch. Is it the lunch? Yes. Jakaria, the lunch after the second day. Yeah, yes. Lunch on the second day. Yes. So look out for that. We'll be putting it in Whova if you're there. We'll be letting everyone know about that. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to say a few words, and now I'm going to pass it off. I'm going to pass it off to Sam first, and then Sam, you can introduce your team, and then we'll go from there. So Sam, take it away.
Awesome.
I will stop sharing.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And I am representing the ESU, and we're going to do quick introductions because we really want to get into discussion. But I'm Sam Kling. I am quantitative research scientist and a co-investigator on the PCORI HSII capacity building project. Right now, I have on the call Sonia, Cassie, Heather, Rachel, Hannah, Katie, all from our group. We weren't sure how many people to expect for the discussion, but wanted to have plenty of backup to take notes in case this was a huge group today.
Sam, can I jump in for 2 seconds?
Yes.
And we let Hannah, Rachel, and Heather know that they could go, and that way the evaluation sciences unit won't completely overwhelm the rest of you. So thanks for being here.
Yep. Thank you, guys. And today we're hoping to talk to you about PCORI HSII, and I completely realize many of you have already been on calls with us to gather tools. But today we're excited to dig deeper into your processes, your language, what you like and dislike about various tools you use in quality improvement and beyond. So we're excited for you to participate. Sonia is going to be leading the focus group portion of this call today. But I will do a brief introduction for those who might not know about PCORI or haven't heard about it in a while. So I will share my slides. And I guess too, we're recording this session right now, but we will record the focus group portion of today's. If you're not comfortable with that, please chat with our message Sonia, and we can determine an alternative to that. So I'm going to share my screen. And this is not the right screen. Oh, is it? Do you guys see my PCORI slides? I have too many presentations open.
We see the slides, but not presentation. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, great. This is the official kickoff of our listening tour. So you are our first group. We love hearing feedback. We're a little nervous about this being our first time, but we were super excited to try it out with this group of improvement professionals. And getting your initial thoughts on how we're approaching this listening tour and the questions in the listening tour. So as a reminder, PCORI Health Systems Implementation Initiative was started in March 2023, so still brand new. The goal is to advance the uptake of clinical effectiveness research into practice. So these are PCORI funded interventions, best clinical practices that they have shown in research that are effective in at least some settings. 42 health systems will be eligible to compete for some grant funding to implement these practices, and Stanford is planning to pursue the first request for funding that will focus on antibiotic stewardship, and I believe just in the pediatric setting, but more conversations happened on Monday around that. But health systems from all over the US are participating, academic and not academic, VAs versus not community health care systems, in a variety of sizes. So we're excited to be a part of this group. And if you have any additional questions regarding this, we can put some information in the chat. And then as a reminder, this is led by Drs. Paul Maggio and Grace Lee. And I know Lisa's on the call. She's a great supporter of this initiative and helped us get us all together. So today we want to focus on the capacity building project. And as many of you have heard previously, our group, the ESU, is focused on helping build a toolkit of improvement and implementation tools and resources that are all hosted on a single platform that's available to all Stanford entities without needing to log in or additional permissions. So just making all those wonderful tools you have more accessible. For today's listening tour, to inform our building and organization of the toolkit, we will today explore your processes for QI projects, discuss what resources you use, and most importantly, why you use those, and then examine the alignment between a proposed organizational framework we have for the toolkit and your experience on the ground. Oh, and that's for later. And at this point, I will allow Sonia to take over.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, I'm Sonia and I work with Sam and Katie and Cassie at the ESU. And before we get started with our presentation today, Ryan, is there a specific icebreaker that you wanted to do, or just a general question? Because I have something prepared if not.
I would love to have yours. I have one but I'm not wed to it, so go for it.
Okay, thank you so much. So just for today, we're going to actually stay in one room because my team and the participants today are sort of equal. So just for ease of this conversation, we're going to stay all together. But what I would love to hear from all of you is your name, your position at Stanford, whether you would consider yourself an early, mid-career, or advanced quality improver, whatever that means to you. And then in just one word, what your favorite thing about fall is. And I'm going to have Ryan start us off.
Okay, Ryan Dark. I'm on the Stanford Medicine Healthcare's improvement team as a principal improvement professional. I'd say probably more on the advanced side. And one word for fall, football.
Jennifer,
so
go
ahead. You want
ahead.
me to pass it to? Okay, good. You're doing it. Got it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer. I'm a performance improvement consultant for the interventional platform. I feel like I'm transitioning out of early career into mid-career. I've been doing full-time performance improvement work for the last 4 years. And Favorite thing about fall is I like the cooler weather.
Thank you.
All right, Jennifer, that's 2 words.
Cool is my 1 word.
Cool. Okay. All right. There you go. Thank you.
Jakaria?
Hi, Jakaria Stewart. I am pretty much aligned with what Ryan said. Same team, same role, same world. And I think Ryan's a little more advanced than I am, though, in the improvement world. I'm going to go ahead and give him that title. And 1 word for the fall. Ryan took my word too. Football. That's what the fall means to me. So.
Jakari and I are the same person sometimes. I'm convinced of it. We look a little different, but we're very similar. It's weird.
Jake, want to go ahead?
Yeah, Jake Mickelson. I direct many of our courses that we offer around improvement science at Stanford. Sure. Yeah, advanced. I've been doing it for some time. And my word for fall, Soren. Soren is my 5-year-old boy, and he is going to full day school starting in October. And I'm really excited about that. Not because I don't love him at home, just because he needs a place to let his energy go. I'm so excited.
I can go next. So hi, I'm Cassie Bragdon. I'm a qualitative researcher and project manager with the Evaluation Sciences Unit. So again, thank you so much for having us here today. I'm definitely like an early QI person. I don't even know if I do QI, but the evaluation of it very early on. And my favorite thing about fall is the smell.
Hazel, are you available to share? I can see that you're maybe off mute.
Yes, sorry about that. Hazel DeLeon, Executive Director of Quality and Patient Safety at the SMP side. And I would consider advanced with regards to quality improvement. And for fall, colors.
Thanks for the kind words, Lisa. Do you want to share about your favorite fall word?
Sure. So Lisa Freeman, Senior Advisor with the Stanford Medicine Center for Improvement. I don't think I'm a very advanced improver, but I am an old one. And my favorite word for fall is France, because I always go somewhere in France in the fall. Just got back last night from 2 weeks in Paris, which was magical.
Mackenzie, Katie, or Sam?
Sam Klingon, I would say I'm intermediate, getting more familiar all the time. And favorite word for fall is comfy. Close, that's 2 words, but. And then Mackenzie, can you come off mute next?
I'm not sure. Mackenzie had to step away for a second.
No
she
worries.
Did let me know about that. So yeah, she might have to join when she gets in.
No worries. Katie, take it away.
Sure. Yeah, Katie Brown Johnson. I'm a research scientist with the Evaluation Sciences Unit. And back to school. It is all 1 word. It's got the hyphens, Ryan. I'm paying attention.
Thank you for defining that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
And I'm Sonia. I would say I am early in my career in quality improvement, and I just moved to Minnesota, so my fall word is leaves. Thank you all so much for participating in that icebreaker. We are going to transition now to our discussion today. I'm really excited to hear that we have many mid and advanced career quality improvers, because I think this is going to be just an excellent conversation today. So the first thing that we want to talk about is we're really excited to hear about your quality improvement process. So to start, I'd like to discuss what your process is for new quality improvement projects. So when you have a new project, tell me how you get started. For example, this could be a new technology or intervention you want to implement and the process that you're going to go through to start that work.
Okay, I know you've heard from me already, but I'm gonna start us off to break the ice maybe. I think Jakara was gonna do the same thing. So for me, I always want to understand what the problem we're trying to solve is. I find so many times we jump into solving for things we haven't really fully defined yet, and oftentimes we have an elegant solution without really a problem. So we go in search of a problem. And so I really work with whoever it is that's proposing it to make sure that they understand what it is they're trying to solve for. And then also, ideally, if it's if they're trying to fix something, do they have data to substantiate it? Certainly, if it's a design, if we're creating something new, then you may not have that. You wouldn't have data necessarily to start with for your design. But if it is truly improvement on that side of things, yeah, I'd like to see data and also understand what the problem they're trying to solve is.
Yeah, Ryan, and I think that that's a great place to start. The other thing that I've seen in improvement a lot of times is at the grassroots, people do have ideas and want to solve things and know that they have the data that says it needs to be improved. But I like to validate with the sponsors that they're really behind the work before getting anybody invigorated, excited, thinking we're going to fix this thing for you today. Because if the sponsors are not aligned, you will get kiboshed and it creates more harm in the environment.
I think I totally agree with Brian and Jakaria. The first step is always like a really nice, healthy conversation with like the project's leaders. What's the problem? Why am I here? What's the culture going on? So I think after that conversation, for me, like one of the early steps is to like learn more. So try to go to Gemba and learn about their processes and what it feels like to work there, and like try to feel the problem that they've come to me with. Or if there's good data, I want to spend some time looking at their data and see if I can't see the problem in the data and slice and dice it different ways and just kind of gain a lot of understanding.
Something I'd add to the discussion. Another thing I look for is this are we trying to design for quality, improve for quality, or control for quality? Because there's different tools or methods or even conversations that have with the team based on that answer. And sometimes teams don't know. They're not aware that you'd approach it differently. But if someone's trying to design something completely new that doesn't exist, that's a different approach than to someone who's trying to discover a root cause that they can't understand right at that point. Or to someone who's just trying to make a process more in control than it currently states, than it currently is performing. And so going back to that Durant trilogy that's now decades old, still continues to come up for me.
Sorry, the what trilogy?
The Durant trilogy by Joseph Durant. He defined quality as quality planning, quality improvement, and quality control. And I still think it's pertinent today.
Thank you all so much for sharing. So it sounds like starting with the problem and really talking with your sponsors or like the participants in the quality improvement project to make sure there's buy-in. Really excited to hear more about the Durant trilogy. That's new information for me. I'm curious if any of those resonate with Lisa or Hazel or Mackenzie, if you're available with your process for quality improvement.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, definitely all of the things that you guys have mentioned. One of the things too that I try to articulate is or understand is the why of, why take this on versus, another. And as we know in healthcare, there's so many competing priorities. And is this more of a quality improvement to, for regulatory purposes, which is, again, if it is our licensing that is on the line, then that is priority. So I think I want to understand, because again, there's not just one, focus area is trying to understand the prioritization of things.
So I'm hearing from Hazel, understanding the prioritization. Does that resonate with anyone else? Lisa, I'm going to call you out from the chat. I'd love to hear more what you mean about do not A3 alone.
I'm probably the worst one about doing this, because you think you know what the problem is, you think you know what the solution is, you think you know how to get there, and then you don't involve the people that are absolutely critical to both clearly understanding what is the problem you're going to solve, and then all of the steps you need to do on either side of the A3 to get to a sustainable solution. And so often we're just like, just get her done. Somebody needs this by next week, and you just don't want to go through the discipline of the steps that are required to have a sustainable solution.
That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else have has had a similar experience with that? Shakira, I see you nodding.
Yeah, I'll change my response from mid-level to advanced, because I feel like I've been beat up in all these categories. I've done the opposite. I've done what we shouldn't do, right? And felt the experience of the pain I cause when I misdirect improvement, right? So this idea of not A3ing alone, definitely it's an opportunity for most of us to remember that just because we think we're experts doesn't mean we should just go solve the problem by ourselves. I'm going to nod the whole time, so don't feel like you have to call on me. This is just like, if you go to church or something and the preacher's talking, it's like, yeah, that's me. This whole thing is like, I felt this before. So loving the conversation, but ignore my head nods because, yeah, it's tough.
I love the enthusiasm. It's super great to see the involvement, and I'm glad that the discussion is resonating with you. Where have you seen teams potentially excel or struggle in this process of starting a QI project?
I'll go since it's quiet though. So one thing that I find a lot of people don't really consider is scope and project scope. So they go off to the races and they don't say, you know what, we're going to solve this problem, but at what point in the process are we really going to say is in scope, and what point are we going to close it off? And defining that early so that things don't keep bolstering into the process and muddying the water and extending the project and changing the scope. And before you know it, the problem you were trying to solve is no longer on the table.
And just to build on that a bit, and comes to what Jakaria said first, is building that scope and aligning with what the sponsor is looking for is also critically important, because I've also seen teams that they charge ahead with what they think they're supposed to be working on, and then only to find out later that that wasn't at all what the charge was. So there's also that. So, I came initially and talked about the solution in search of a problem, but there's also this, okay, we think we understand, and we take it and run with it only to find out later that it wasn't actually what was supposed to be worked on. And so there needs to be a lot of communication. Communication is critical in doing any of this work.
I'm curious, in terms of scope, where have you seen projects define their scope well, and what tools or resources did they use to accomplish that?
Okay, I'll jump in. One of the ones I really, really like, especially the last few years, I've really embraced it, is the SCIP So the idea that you're just getting a sense of who the stakeholders are, to Lisa's point, including, of course, in our world, the patients and their families, and then also looking at all the potential individuals that are players in this work, but understanding the inputs and the outputs, but then getting a real grounding on what's the first step of this process and the last step of the process, so we can really zero in on, yes, this is the package that we're working on, and keep it at a really high level and get agreement, and then we can start diving deep into the others. So for me, the SCIPOC is a really key tool that I recommend a lot of the teams that I'm coaching start with.
Have others used this tool in similar ways, different ways?
Yeah, Sonia, to your question, for project scoping purposes, I found it really helpful.
Jennifer, were you going to add something?
I was just like, I'm thinking about like a current project that I have that's having scope problems, and like how I could have used this tool to avoid it. And so I'm curious, like you guys in the room, like how would you navigate the situation where we think the problem has to do with a certain section of the value stream, but the SCIPOC that people want to create is the whole process? You know? Like I feel like I sometimes get into trouble where we're looking at this one specific step. I pull out my SCIPOC tool, and then they say, okay, well, let's start at the beginning of the patient's journey. And I go, well, I'm really not here to talk about the beginning of the patient's journey. We're here to talk about the middle. So sometimes like almost makes it worse sometimes, because then we're like have this document that has everything that we're not even talking about, you know?
I think what that comes down to from a large degree is also communicating with the sponsors and understanding what the focus of the effort is. And if you're talking about value stream analysis, which is what you referred to, there's going to be a lot of things that you can work on within that value stream. And so identifying those and saying, okay, we'll work on this, but not that. And that as we start learning, we will move to that. And we did that with a project. Let's say we had a SSI reduction, so it's a surgical site infection reduction project. And it started off with just being focused on, well, just reducing SSI. And then it was talking about maybe skin prep. So this idea of using some topical or the antibiotic kind of solution on the skin before surgeries. And then because of some of the sponsors' involvement, it kind of moved or morphed into more of a discussion about temperature of the body and temperature of the room. And so we understood that all of those things are important. But because the sponsor was saying, okay, this is where we really want to focus, even though we may not have thought it was the most critical issue to solve that's going to really solve the problem. Ultimately, we started with the room temperature one. And the idea was that we could rule that one out, identify it, lock it in, come up with some standards around it. And then with that, now we've ruled that out. Now we can start discussing, okay, well, if not, then what? And so then we start looking at some of those other elements and start chipping it away. But knowing that this is going to be a journey, this is a multi-step process. And understanding also that that might not be the 80% of the Pareto, you know, like as we're looking at some of the tools that we use to solve, it might not be the biggest lever for change. But understanding the politics and other things, we've got to factor in all of that. So SCIPOC in a way gives us a big sense of it, but also you can narrow it too. You can have that discussion and say, given, yes, this is much bigger than that, but what are we going to focus on right now? And then, so it's going to be like this idea, almost like design thinking, where they go narrow and then wide and narrow and wide. It's a similar thing here, very iterative. I don't know if that's helpful or not. But that's...
That was great. Thank you. So I'm going to shift us a little bit, and I'm hearing some specific resources or tools that y'all have used in quality improvement work. I heard A3, Pareto, SCIP, a Gemba at one point. I'm wondering, are there other tools, or are any of those your favorite, and why? Or is there a different tool or resource that has been particularly helpful in your improvement journey?
For me, it's the PDSA cycle, which a lot of healthcare staff and clinicians are very familiar with. Institute of Healthcare Improvement promotes it, so it's something that is simple and definitely people can grasp. You can really align it with the nursing care plan, or even how physicians do their SOPI. So it's a tool that is easily understood in healthcare.
I'm hearing PDSA. Do others like using this? I know our team has used this before for sure. Yeah, some thumbs up. Are there, Jake, go ahead.
Did you say favorite tools at the beginning of a project or just overall?
Just overall. If it's the beginning, that's great. If it's overall, that's great. I know we've had this conversation with you, Jake, a couple of times. So whatever else you're thinking about.
Oh, you're always going to make me happy with a run chart. Sorry, run charts are like my favorite thing of all time when it comes to improvement work. I don't feel like anything tells a story better than a run chart. Maybe a control chart, but I do like run charts.
See, and I'll double down on Jake and say I love control charts because it really helps people understand. They see the variation differently if we can talk about being in control versus out of control. But if you don't have a run chart, to me, you haven't done your homework, and I'm not sure we know what we're trying to do here. So Jake instilled that in me, by the way, with the cowboy theme back in the day when we had those videos. Thanks, Jake.
I think I love a good prioritization matrix. And it's always really helpful when you get to like the analysis, picking solutions phase. We often get more ideas than we can actually do. So gotta do a good 2x2 matrix to save the world.
You mentioned Vilfredo Pareto. I have a love fest with him for a lot of reasons, but I love a good Pareto chart. And I think the other, I do love a 2x2 matrix. I love a lot of improvement tools. What is going on here? But I think that some of the tools are so powerful as visuals. Some tools are not powerful as standalone visuals. They create confusion if people don't know how to interpret them. And sometimes people go for the more complex things with, scatter plots and different statistical tools. But I mean, a Pareto tells the story to me. A histogram tells the story to me. It's hard to misinterpret what it's telling you. So whatever tool you use, I love it to be simple enough for everybody to be able to understand what it's trying to portray.
That's super interesting. That's a second time that it's about telling the story. So it sounds like one of the benefit of some of these quality improvement tools is that they're useful in telling the story of the project, of the problem. Does that resonate with anyone else?
Yes, 100%.
Big head nods. Yeah. Do you have any specific experiences where you've seen one of these improvement tools tell a story or struggle to tell the story of a project?
Yeah, I got one that comes to mind right away. So we're trying to reduce MRI missed appointments at Stanford. Our missed appointment rate is 12%. You miss an MRI appointment, there's probably hundreds of patients waiting to get an MRI at Stanford. So you miss an appointment, it's not a good thing, because that's an appointment that someone else could have used. They had been showing their missed appointment rate via a very colorful bar chart for about a decade. And it was extremely hard to understand. And honestly, they were not making an impact. Project team after project team had worked on MRI missed appointments. They couldn't make an impact. Someone who actually still works here at Stanford decided we're going to look at missed appointment rates via a run chart. A very clear one-line run chart that was then shared to scheduling, to the MRI team, to the financial clearance team. Missed appointments dropped from 12% to 10% in just a few weeks. And it brought in another $3 million to Stanford and hundreds of patients a year getting an MRI. And it was just changing the visual to something people could understand. It's been a case study I've used in many areas when talking about data visualization.
That's a really powerful story, Jake. Thank you for sharing that. I'm looking at the time and we have one more section that we'd really like to go over with all of you, particularly with your expertise and improvement. So what I'm going to do now is share a slide that is about our working organizational framework. So for PCORI HSII, our team, with a lot of y'all's help, have been gathering tools and resources throughout Stanford, and we are working on organizing them into a toolkit. So we've developed this framework or this organizational tool based on project stages, and we aim to categorize resources under this project stage or under project stages. So I'm going to pull it up and share it with all of you, and we're really just looking to see what resonates. What are you thinking? No?
We're seeing the framework. It's just not in PowerPoint and slideshow mode.
Thank you. Is it now? Well,
it's
no.
trying.
It's loading.
It's trying.
Yeah.
It's thinking.
Okay, there we go.
Yep.
So you're asking if you categorize things in this type of framework, would it work? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, what about this framework resonates with you? Do you think it would work? Take a second to look it over, and what are you seeing at first?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm not seeing, I suppose, is the measure assessment piece that to me falls between goal and intervention. There's this assessment, first of all, understanding where I'm at, and I'm not totally seeing that here. And then understand, well, I've got a little of it, I guess, in the problem, but that's early on. So I think it would also be understanding our current state and effectively understanding my current state, where I want to be in the gap, and then kind of that analysis. Because this almost jumps from, okay, I got a goal and I've got this intervention in mind, and I'm going to implement it. And then I feel like it's also maybe, and I don't know that it's probably in here, but the idea of the PDSA or the testing it out. So the intervention and then testing to get to the implementation. This feels to me almost like more like project management, where you've got a solution in mind and you're implementing it, the intervention implementation based on research and things like that. But that's just my initial thought. But I like the flow of it a lot.
So I'm hearing that there's like a measurement component, and also the PDSA cycle, that it's maybe missing something in the middle. Does anyone have a similar reaction to that?
Well, I mean, to be clear, I think he's pointing at the in between goal and intervention.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In between goal and intervention, there's an area around current state assessment that is not quite captured here.
And then between intervention and implementation, that would be where the testing.
Mm-hmm.
It might be there, but I just don't see it called out.
Is this supposed to be instead of an A3, Sonia, or? Because I put in the chat about the evaluation because I'm not sure that, you know, when I think of ESU, I think of a formal evaluation, but, you know, not everything's going to have that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking, Lisa. So that the idea is that on the website toolkit, the resources that we've gathered, so some of those are worksheets, some of those are videos. Many of you will be familiar with those videos. Many of you are in those videos. That would be organized based off of stage in the quality improvement process. So maybe you're working on how to identify your problem, and in that stage, you may find something like the A3, or find worksheets or videos specifically about identifying your problem, measuring the problem, understanding key drivers. And then in the goal, you'd find worksheets, templates, resources specific to drafting a SMART goal and aligning that goal with institutional priorities. So it would be a way to organize the information, not necessarily replacing or like building a new tool.
I see. Yeah, I defer to the professionals on the call.
This is so kind. So this is interesting. So I really thank you, Sonia, for presenting it this way. And I love the thought process of being able to categorize things as people need them, so they can find them faster or access them quicker. But does anyone see aspects of DMAIC in this?
That's what I was wondering. Is there, yeah, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, so DMAIC is an evidence-based model that's been around for a while, and it stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, Control. And actually, I think it's neat that we come up with something that's maybe a little more user-friendly. And so if there's words that are more user-friendly than Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, Control, then maybe we need to use that. There's extra words though that are inserted here to Jakaria's, or maybe it was, who said it? Maybe at least it was you or Ryan. Evaluation is an interesting one we have in here that I think deserves further discussion. I don't know really what tools or videos or resources I'd put in that domain, but maybe there's some that I'm unaware of that we have. And then implementation is a word, I don't know, maybe it's stylistically just me. I feel like when what evidence is shown with improvement work is we iterate, we intervene, we do an intervention, we iterate. Implementation sounds to me like, no, we're not iterating, we're just putting this in. This is the new idea, we're putting it in. And sometimes I feel like that's a little strong. Like if someone comes to me and says, Jake, we've got this problem we're working on, we've done a root cause analysis, and now we're going to implement our solutions. My response is always, don't you want to test them first before you just implement them? And I worry implementation comes off a little too strong.
Other initial reactions or responses to what Jake just shared? So I was hearing that the word implementation is a strong word that maybe doesn't take into account iterations and adaptation and testing, which is pretty similar to what I was hearing Ryan say, that there's a testing element that's missing between intervention and implementation.
Yeah, please, if anyone disagrees with what I share, please share. I think it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts.
No, I think I agree with you, Jake. You know, the word implementation, I feel it's better to keep it, you know, intervention, with an understanding that it is an iterative process. Yeah, as you said, it's, you know, implementation kind of seems static. It's like, you know, we've identified the issue, we know the solution, we're implementing it, and that's it. You know, yeah, intervention or innovate. Yeah, that may be a better word to adopt. But definitely this framework, to your point, has of course, there's a lot of established tools already, and I know we're trying to make it probably more user-friendly. And sometimes I struggle with that because, you know, when you go to outside Stanford, everybody refers to it as the MAG, and some people may not be able to, you know, follow that if you're using a different framework. But I understand the intent.
So I guess one note to add that maybe I didn't clarify enough, and maybe I did, I'm not sure, was that part of this is also about how we would organize the toolkit like on a website. So the ultimate goal of this process is to develop a online repository of resources hosted on the SMCI website that individuals could access tools, resources that includes worksheets, videos, curriculum, etc., that would be publicly available and not behind like intranet or behind box. And so we're trying to think of the best, most user-friendly way to organize those resources. And so the idea would be that they'd be organized by these stages, not necessarily that this would replace the process for a quality improvement project. Like it wouldn't be instead of doing an A3 or instead of doing a PDSA, but more as an organizational tool.
Like Ryan and Jake and Jakaria, what does this make sense to you? Because I think, you know, we really value your thoughts on how to organize this.
Yeah, I just put something in chat. I really do like the idea of what we're trying to accomplish here with the kind of categories and being able to walk people through. I also like the idea that we're trying, I mean, it seems like what we're trying to do here is come up with a way that we at Stanford are able to walk people through this journey. And yeah, we could trip over the words and some of those things. I think that's going to happen because we've come from different backgrounds and things. But I really like the direction that this is going. I do see a few little things that we might want to tweak, but all in all, I really appreciate this. I think this is certainly directionally correct.
I'm trying to think. When something's presented to me, I always think if everyone's just buying into it too fast, we're not considering other options. You know, there might be something else out there that could be a better approach. And other approaches that come to mind for me are things like, well, what if it was organized by more generalizable topics like, I need help managing teams. I need help analyzing data. I need help doing root cause analysis. I need help. They're not so much project specific things, but they're more concept specific things.
And wouldn't it be cool, Jake, if it was like a smart tool that, you know, you put the word in and then it links to the tool?
Like Google, what would you like help with today or whatever it says?
Yeah. So that's a throwdown for maybe next time, Sonia and Sam.
So okay, just thinking out loud, guys. I'm thinking different way. How do people who need assistance? How do our customers, the demand? How are questions formulating in their minds? Are they formulating in the way of, I'm on this storytelling journey and this is where I'm at? Or are they formulating in the way as, I'm trying to build a run chart. Do you have some help here? Or I can't manage this team. How do I set up this team? And I don't know. It probably could be a little bit of both, but that's another way you could categorize this work as more around general concepts or issues people usually have challenging situations with.
I'm curious what others think of that idea. Ryan, I'm hearing a little bit of both feels right. That's what I was going to say too. Kind of a combination. What do other people think?
I think one thing Jake said is critical is, what does your user need, right? So based on what experience they're going to have, whether it's submitting through this process or engaging in it, what will they need and what makes it easiest? I mean, we're all improvement people, and if we've been doing it a long time, we have our way. We have our Swiss Army knives. We have the things we go to all the time and the way we're used to seeing things. But what does your audience need?
Yeah.
And that needs to be what's in the front door.
Yeah, like a few words that come to mind. Not everyone knows what intervention means. And so if there's a category under intervention, they're not going to sustainability. Oh, so we're going green. I mean, that's what's going to come to mind. So I think there's terms we have to think about from the user that may make more sense than some of the terms we often use in improvement.
And Ryan, I know we have just another moment before we wrap up, so I'm going to pass it off to you with the final thought on this framework and then to take it over with closing thoughts.
Hey, I don't have the final thought on the framework.
That's okay.
I do appreciate you giving me the last word on it. But what I do want to call out, so what I was thinking, and I think about this a lot when I hear this group and other improvers here at Stanford, I appreciate so very much the difference in perspective. Like when Jake's talking, I'm like, wow, yeah, that's really cool. Not always though, Jake, just letting you know, don't get a big head, all right? But no, there's oftentimes I'm like, wow. And then Jakaria says something and I'm like, oh, gosh, yeah, that's right. And so I feel like hearing everybody here is just so valuable. And I appreciate that you've incorporated us and you've brought us into this process because I'd like more of it. I really appreciate this. And this is why we have this whole group, is for this kind of dialogue. So thank you for leaning into it. And thank you for the implementation science team for coming in and leading this. This has been a lot of fun, and I'd like to do more of it if we can. With that, I would like to, let's see, could you stop sharing really fast so that I can, I'm going to give everyone the link. Hold on. I'm going to give everyone the link. What I would like you to do, and even maybe it's jamming up on me. All right, there we go. I would like even the implementation science team to do this, if you would. I'm going to put in a link, the mural, and I would like you to go to the bottom of it and go ahead and click on that link. Go to the bottom and go to the I like, I wish, I wonder. I would love to hear your feedback about how this went, what you liked about this, what you wish, what you wonder, because we are going to use this, as we always do, as our way of improving our process to provide us with feedback that we can then use to make this venue better and also get ideas for the future. So with that said, I will, if you need to go, feel free to go. We hope that we will be able to see you next week at the Lean Conference. And if you're listening to this, thank you for spending the time with us. Thank you again to the implementation science team. We really appreciate your time here, how thoughtful you were with this, how much time you spent putting it together. I can totally tell that it was something you'd put a lot of thought into, so really appreciate it. Jakaria, would you like to share anything as closing?
No, I think you having the last word is apropos.
Okay, doesn't happen much, so I'll take it. All right, good. Well, thank you all very much for your time, and hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I hope we see you next week. All right, I'm going to close it right now. Feel free to continue using that mural. It's still open. I'll leave it open. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you again.